Welcome to another edition of the Mailbag from the workshop this time, and we've got a fair few comments to get through. But before we get through those today, normal parish notices. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified when this sort of content or other content hits the channel, that's the bell icon is the one you should be hitting. If you like the content of this video or any other video you watch on the channel, give it a thumbs up. It really helps. Become a member of the TMTG community. The address is down there, as are the Instagram and Facebook pages, or Instagram and Facebook pages, whichever way around it is. Go over there. You'll see all the shenanigans of the channel are notified on those platforms. But now back to the video. Okay, this one's from XP50 Player. In response to the Yamaha SY85 rant I did back in April. And he says, I overlooked the SY85 at the time. Seemed like a low-rent version of the SY99 with no FM. Nice layout, more similar to the JV80 than the Korgs of the time. Other weird cross-pollinations like the SY22, TG33 being the 4-op FM Korg DS7 and the 707, released around the time Yamaha acquired the short-lived controlling stake in Korg. And since I did that video on the Yamaha SY85, I've been really surprised by you guys. And actually the number of people that have got in contact through the channel asking me questions about the SY85. And I overlooked the SY85 when it originally came out because I thought the SY77, the 99 was sort of kind of the flagship synthesizers. I didn't register what the SY85 was all about. And so it's kind of an interesting keyboard, and a lot of people have been in touch specifically around the fact that they stopped using their SY85 because the disk drive went kaput. Well, if you watch the sequence of videos I did about my restoration project on the SY85, you know there is an easy solution to the disk drive going kaput. There is a guy in America flogging the disk drives. Okay, yes, it's going to cost you $55 plus shipping to get them from there to here. But on the flip side, it is a direct drive machine and it tends to work, and it's plug and play. So when you get it, literally plug it in and away you go. Then there seems to be another genre of people who have acquired the SY85. The number of SY85 factory discs that I've been sending out to people is actually quite staggering. I was expecting to send out one or two, and I've sent out quite a lot more of those, all over Europe and the US, and as far as the Philippines. Okay, so, you know, I was expecting probably around Europe, but I wasn't quite expecting. So, you know, we are talking, they are going worldwide. I think a lot of people pigeonholed it like I did in the 77 and 99, and it's a different beast. And that's the thing that got me about this thing, is the SY85 compared with the 77 are completely different beasts. I can see the differences. I can see why it doesn't have FM and AWM, because it is a sampler-based machine. But I don't think that was clear to people of the time. And the fact that the SY, if I remember, I did a video on this, and I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? But the 77 came out in 90, this 99 came out in 91, and the SY85 came out in 92. And it was the last of them. So if you bought a 77 or a 99, why would you buy an 85? And yet, I think possibly the 85 was the better machine. And the 85, even though it's a sample-based machine, can use FM-based stuff to move across. But I still think maybe the SY85 was the better machine. Now, I haven't released this on the channel yet, but sitting there is a 77. So I was contacted, did I want a 77? And I said yes, and it has arrived, and I did some things on Instagram recently about the 77. And the reason why I haven't showcased the 77 on the channel is quite simply that the disk drive was kaput. Sound familiar? So I will be doing a comparison of the 85 and the 77. I will be showcasing the 77, and I've got some repair work to do on the 77, which, to be honest, I should have done by now, but I haven't because I haven't had the time. So keep watching. There is stuff coming on the 77. The next one comes from R2 Work C. Sounds a bit Star Warsy, doesn't it? R2 Work C. Anyway, in response to more features of the Kordbot Octaves play mode and playback, a video I did in April 2019. And he writes, it seems a bit weird that this thing doesn't have any sort of secondary page functionality for additional MIDI CC. Instead, I limit it to the default layout. Or am I missing something? Very interesting about the Kordbot. And I know, the Kordbot features quite a few questions on the channel. But at the moment, Brad at Isla Instrument is recoding the firmware of the Kordbot. Oh, the Kordbot. That sounds like a car, doesn't it? The Kordbot. Apologies, Brad. So if you get in touch with Brad at Isla Instruments, I'm sure he would love to hear your ideas. And this goes out to the wider community. I'm sure he would love to hear your ideas on how the Kordbot can be improved. It was always done as a development project with a whole series of functionality around it that Brad wanted to implement. He hasn't been able to because of issues with the original firmware, which he says have been sorted. But, if you've got new ideas, and I note that there is new versions of firmware being produced, get in touch, tell him what you want, and see if he can come up with that functionality. I'm sure this thing can be developed into a real workhorse tool for the studio. Okay, from Sean Curran. In response to the Drum Machine Wars SMR I did in October 2020. And he writes, you smacked the nail on the head, John. What was lost on the sampler generation was the original workflow needed to produce these hits. To bring back that workflow managed for me, the solution is clones. Would I purchase a Lindrum or DMX clone? You bet. Cue the part 2 where I see the next drum machine in the thumbnail. All I can say, Sean, is thanks for the feedback. I do believe that, and I said it in the video, the Drum Machine Wars video, that the sampling culture really did kill the drum machine market, because you didn't need to buy an 808, you could sample an 808. What you couldn't do is you couldn't change the sample as you could on an 808 or any other drum machine of the time. Okay, and that was what I think was critical about where the samplers lost it. You sample something, you got a tone, and that tone was set as you sample it. Yes, on the sampler you could play around with it, but you couldn't adjust the bass tone. You had to work with the tone that you sampled. And I think that's one of the things that, has over the years caused issues with certain tonal ranges. And if you look at some of these big sample packs you get now, they're massive. The sampling is massive because they change the subtleness of how they sample the tone. So one with heavy attack, one with soft attack, and then that is then mapped to the keyboard in terms of how hard you hit the hammer. And I think, that to me, go back to the original instrument. I can't afford the original instrument, buy a clone.